Higher education in the United States is often called the Great Equalizer, but for millions of Americans, it feels more like an economic burden. Over 43 million borrowers collectively owe more than $1.7 trillion in student loans, making student debt the second largest consumer debt category, behind only mortgages, according to the Federal Reserve. But why has attending college, a step meant to provide financial security, become synonymous with lifelong debt? To put it in perspective, the average cost of attending a 4-year public university has skyrocketed to over $104,000, while wages for young workers have stagnated. As Dr. Beth Akers, a senior fellow at the American Enterprise Institute, explains, the cost of college has risen faster than almost any other good or service in our economy. For students, it's no longer about opportunity, it's about survival. In this video, we'll explore why college became so expensive, how policies shaped this reality, and what solutions could redefine the future of higher education. Public colleges in the 1960s and 70s were bastions of accessibility, heavily subsidized by state governments. California's University of California system, for example, charged residents as little as $300 annually, which is around $2,500 in today's dollars. But by the 1980s, state budgets began shifting away from higher education, redirecting funds to Medicaid, infrastructure, and other pressing needs. Between 2008 and 2018, state funding for higher education dropped by 16%, according to the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities. Illinois, for example, slashed public university funding by over 50%, leaving institutions no choice but to raise tuition. Federal aid, such as Pell Grants, once covered nearly 80% of public college costs, but now account for less than 30%. What caused this shift? Many point to the broader economic philosophy of the Reagan era, which emphasized privatization and reduced government spending. According to Dr. Anthony Carnevale of Georgetown University, when states divest from public universities, students are left to pick up the tab. It's a financial burden we've transferred across generations. Please like and subscribe. Leave your thoughts in the comments. Your support is appreciated. Thank you. The GI Bill of 1944 revolutionized higher education, making college accessible to millions of returning World War II veterans. By 1956, over 7.8 million veterans had utilized its benefits, flooding campuses and transforming universities into engines of economic growth. But the bill wasn't equally accessible. Black veterans, particularly in the South, were excluded from predominantly white institutions due to segregation. Historically, black colleges and universities, or HBCUs, often lack the capacity to accommodate the influx, leaving many black servicemen without access to higher education, as Dr. Ira Katznelson highlights in When Affirmative Action Was White, the GI Bill was a missed opportunity for racial equity, reinforcing systemic barriers rather than dismantling them. This exclusion sowed the seeds for today's racial wealth gap, where black borrowers owe 13% more on average than white borrowers, according to Brookings. The 1957 launch of Sputnik marked a pivotal moment in American education. With the U.S. trailing behind the Soviet Union in science and technology, Congress passed the National Defense Education Act in 1958, allocating millions to STEM fields. Universities became central to national security, prioritizing research and innovation. This shift came at a cost. By the 1970s, universities were increasingly focused on securing federal grants, reshaping their missions around research rather than teaching. While this emphasis produced groundbreaking technologies, it also created a hierarchy that prioritized prestige over affordability. Today, the legacy of the space race lives on in the form of research-driven institutions that often neglect undergraduate affordability. The question remains, can universities balance innovation with accessibility? The introduction of U.S. News and World Report's college rankings in 1983 sparked a competitive frenzy among universities. Schools began investing heavily in luxury amenities, elaborate marketing, and high-profile athletics programs to boost their standings. These rankings rarely factor in affordability or accessibility. Instead, they reward exclusivity. As Dr. Robert Kelchin, a higher education policy expert, notes, universities aren't just competing for students, they're competing for prestige. The result? Rising tuition costs to fund unnecessary expenditures. A 2022 Chronicle of Higher Education study found that institutions in the top 50 spend 25% more per student on administrative costs and amenities than those ranked lower. The drive for prestige isn't just expensive, it's unsustainable. Between 1980 and 2020, college tuition rose by 1,200%, far outpacing inflation. Why? One factor is the ballooning cost of administration. From 1980 to 2020, the number of college administrators grew by 240%, often earning six-figure salaries. Meanwhile, faculty salaries remained relatively flat. Another driver is the shift toward luxury branding. Universities now compete by offering extravagant facilities. Think climbing walls, Olympic-sized pools, and gourmet dining halls. These projects, while attractive, add little educational value and increase costs. Moreover, states have steadily reduced funding for higher education. As Dr. Sheila Bair, former chair of the FDIC, explains, the burden of funding education has shifted from taxpayers to students, creating a system that's financially unsustainable. Merit-based scholarships, designed to reward high-achieving students, initially seemed like a brilliant solution to attract top talent to universities. But behind the scenes, these policies contributed to the escalation of tuition costs in unexpected ways. To fund merit-based discounts for some, universities inflated their sticker prices, disproportionately burdening students who didn't qualify for aid. The National Association of College and University Business Officers, NACUBO, reported that private colleges now discount an average of 54% of their tuition to attract students, especially those with high GPAs or SAT scores. While this benefits select individuals, it shifts the financial burden to middle-income families and low-achieving students, who often pay the full inflated price. As Dr. Stephen Bird of New America points out, merit-based aid prioritizes competition over affordability, creating a system that rewards privilege while leaving behind the students who need help the most. This paradox raises an uncomfortable question. Are universities helping students succeed, or simply playing an expensive game of one-upmanship? For-profit colleges represent one of the most controversial sectors of American higher education. Their business model, which prioritizes profits over student outcomes, often exploits low-income and minority students by promising lucrative careers that rarely materialize. These institutions enroll just 10% of students, yet account for nearly 50% of student loan defaults, according to a 2022 report by the Brookings Institution. Take the story of Michelle Hawkins, a single mother who enrolled in a for-profit institution for a nursing degree. She graduated with $35,000 in debt, only to discover that her degree wasn't accredited, rendering her ineligible for the jobs she had been promised. They sold me a dream and left me with a nightmare, she shared in an interview with ProPublica. For-profit colleges often rely on aggressive marketing and misleading statistics to attract students, but their graduates earn $11,000 less annually than those from public universities, according to the National Bureau of Economic Research. The question remains, how can policymakers better regulate these institutions to protect vulnerable students? Graduating from college within 4 years is no longer the norm. In fact, only 41% of students at public colleges and universities manage to complete their degree on time, according to the National Center for Education Statistics. This delay comes at a steep price. Every additional year costs students thousands in tuition, fees, and lost income. The reasons for this are multifaceted. Many students juggle part-time jobs, family obligations, or lack of academic preparedness, all of which prolong their time in school. Others struggle with the complex bureaucracy of higher education, such as changing majors or being unable to enroll in required courses due to scheduling conflicts. Institutions also play a role. As Dr. Sarah Goldrick-Rab, author of Paying the Price, notes, colleges are often unprepared to support today's students, many of whom are first-generation or working adults. The result is a system that inadvertently penalizes the very people it aims to uplift. Addressing these barriers, through better advising, flexible scheduling, and financial support, could significantly improve graduation rates and reduce the overall cost of higher education. The burden of student debt extends far beyond monthly payments. It reshapes the trajectory of borrowers' lives. A 2023 study by Zillow revealed that individuals with significant student loans are 30% less likely to qualify for a mortgage, even if their incomes are stable. This delays home ownership, a key driver of wealth accumulation in the U.S. Moreover, many borrowers postpone major life milestones, such as starting families or saving for retirement. A 2023 survey by the American Psychological Association found that 58% of student loan borrowers experience chronic financial stress, with some reporting that their debt has impacted their mental health, career choices, and even physical well-being. Take the story of Alex Chen, a recent graduate featured in the Wall Street Journal. Despite earning a solid salary in tech, Alex spends nearly $800 a month on student loans, forcing him to live with roommates and put off buying his first home. "It feels like I'm running a race I can never win," he says. These stories aren't isolated incidents. They represent the lived reality of millions. Reforming the student loan system isn't just about dollars and cents. It's about giving people the freedom to live without financial chains. For decades, a college degree was considered a surefire investment. Degree holders, on average, earn $1 million more over their lifetime than those without a degree, according to the Georgetown University Center on Education and the Workforce. But in recent years, that equation has become less certain. The rising cost of tuition, combined with stagnant wages in certain fields, has led many to question whether a degree is still worth the price. For instance, graduates in STEM fields often see strong returns, while those in humanities or social sciences may struggle to recoup their investment. A 2022 report by the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis found that 35% of college graduates are underemployed, working in jobs that don't require a degree. At the same time, alternatives such as coding boot camps, apprenticeships, and trade schools are gaining traction. These pathways offer quicker, cheaper routes to stable employment, challenging the dominance of traditional four-year degrees. This raises an important question. As the job market evolves, will higher education adapt, or will it risk becoming obsolete for certain careers? Free college programs, like those implemented in Tennessee and New York, aim to eliminate tuition barriers for low and middle-income families. In New York, the Excelsior Scholarship covers tuition for families earning less than $125,000 annually, significantly reducing financial stress for thousands of students. However, critics argue that these programs don't account for the full cost of attendance, such as housing, textbooks, and transportation. Another innovative model is income share agreements, where students repay a percentage of their income after graduation instead of taking out traditional loans. For example, Purdue University's ISA program allows students to fund their education without upfront costs. While ISAs align repayment with earnings, they've faced criticism for potential inequities in repayment terms. As Dr. Elizabeth Warren, a leading advocate for student loan reform, points out, the best systems are those that minimize risk for students and prioritize long-term affordability. The challenge lies in scaling these solutions nationally without creating unintended consequences. Unlike for-profits, nonprofit colleges are supposed to reinvest tuition revenue into improving education. But how effectively is that money being used? A 2023 investigation by ProPublica revealed that some nonprofit institutions allocate disproportionate funds to athletics, administrative salaries, and marketing, rather than academic programs. Take the example of a mid-sized university in Texas that spent $15 million on a new football stadium while cutting funding for its library. This prioritization raises questions about whether colleges are truly serving students or chasing prestige. Dr. Kevin Carey, a higher education expert at New America, explains, nonprofit colleges often operate with the same profit-driven mentality as for-profits. They're just better at hiding it. Transparency and accountability are key to ensuring tuition dollars are used to benefit students directly. American higher education stands at a crossroads. Rising costs, mounting debt, and shifting job market demands have forced students and policymakers to rethink the value and accessibility of college. Without reform, experts warn that the current system could collapse under its own weight, leaving generations of Americans without the education they need to thrive. However, there is hope. Countries like Germany and Finland have demonstrated that tuition-free or low-cost education is possible through progressive taxation and public investment. Innovative models like ISAs and free community college programs in the US offer glimpses of what's achievable with political will and creativity. Thank you for watching this video. Please like and subscribe. You can check out another video that is now on your screen.